A day like this is very important in the life of original inhabitants because don't forget that through Decree 6 of 1976, their land was forcibly taken away from them. And that affected their culture so much that their culture was almost going extinct. And the political elite has declared Abuja as a no man's land. And this is a place where people have lived for centuries of years. And so, wherever there is development, they push them to the periphery. And so, they themselves is becoming difficult for them to even recognize themselves, not to talk of their culture. And so, we feel very strongly that the violation of their rights, the lawlessness they have been pushed to, and their statelessness need to be addressed. And those critical aspects of their life cannot be addressed without resuscitating their culture. And that is why we take advantage of the UN International Day for World Indigenous People to celebrate them, to get them to display their culture and let the whole world know that they are still very much in existence right from the beginning of their life when they were in FCT, and that those that want to hear, that want to know, we should hear them and see what they are doing. And that is exactly what we are doing today. They should be well compensated for the lands that have been taken away from them. There is nobody that you can tell that Aso Rock Villa today was acquired with just 20 naira. Nobody will believe that. They said they are not paying for land because they are government. They only pay for economic trees. And the value of economic trees, as far as they are concerned, in their own estimation, was just 20 naira. And that was what was paid to the family that owns that land. Then you talk about Transcorp heating. It was just 10 naira that was paid to the family. Transcorp heating today, a room is not less than 150,000 naira per night. And meanwhile, those families has been displaced. They have been chased out of their site. So the elite have formed their own class. They have driven out those people. And even where they have pushed them to, they did not deem it necessary to either install power, that is electricity, or water, or schools. It is when all these advocacy started, all these agitations, that they begin to do one thing or the other. So what we are saying in essence is that the city center is enough for us to take as our federal capital territory. The government can occupy 2,000 square meters. Currently, Abuja is sitting on a land of over 8,000 square kilometers. And therefore, the rest can be declared as a state. Let them have their own political structures, state structures, where they can determine their own life. Today, they are excluded. They cannot vote for governor. When others are voting, other states are voting, that right is completely denied them. So they cannot vote for State House of Assembly. And Abuja, that has a population of over 5 million, only have 6 area council, which is 6 local government. And they have only 1 senator and 2 House of Rep. Whereas other states that their population is not even half of Abuja, they have 3 senators and other numbers of House of Reps, and they have so many local government areas. And we know that in this country, allocation from the federal government is determined by the number of local government and by the number of representation that you have in the National Assembly. And when we talk about representative government or representative democracy, you are talking about population. It is population that determines the number of representation. But in this case, Abuja has been completely excluded politically. So we are saying that it is not right. Yes, these people have suffered for almost 50 years. It is not too late to redeem their right and address the historical wrongs that have been done to them. And therefore, we are asking that they should be appointed into federal cabinet, which Tinubu has graciously done. But we are also making further demand that the person appointed from the FCT should be made to be FCT or minister, so that he can preside over the affairs of his people. He know where the shoe pitches there.
Self-determination. Some of these things were what we asked that the UN should recognize. For instance, when we made that case for the original inhabitants for political inclusion, at that time, since 1999, when we started this democratic experience, there has never been an indigene of the original inhabitants of the FCT appointed as a minister. And just recently, with the new administration in power, we have seen now that an indigene of the original inhabitants or indigene of the FCT has just been appointed as a minister. That means that the original inhabitants of the FCT now have a place at the highest decision-making organ of the body, which is the Federal Executive Council. We don't know which ministry they're going to put them now. So I would say that some of those campaigns that will have joined the people themselves to carry on are beginning to be recognized at international level and at national level. And you know, today being the 9th of August, every year is set aside to celebrate indigenous people. That is to bring to the table the issues that indigenous people are facing every day. Imagine the fact that in 1976, when the decree was made, that the area we are standing on now as the FCT should be declared as the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. At that time, there was this narrative about the place being a no man's land, meaning that there were no people living here. But we have seen so far that that is a fallacy, that there were people living here. There are people of 9 indigenous tribes that were living here upon this, and they were not taken into consideration in the planning of the Federal Capital Territory. That's why you keep having all of these issues coming in. We have a constitution that talks about inclusion, that talks about the recognition of people that are within Nigeria, 36 states, including the FCT. Yet this is the FCT where everybody congregates on, and the rights of the people here are not recognized.
What are some of those constraints you feel the people are going through as a result of locating the FCT?
Okay, so for instance, there's a community called Godoji in Kuje Area Council. I'm sure that a lot of people don't even know that that community exists. We went to that community and we found that the source of water for that community is a pond. A pond where they drink from, where they feed their animals, they bath, and they cook with. That pond, right now as I speak to you, that area where that pond is has been concessioned to a company. And as at the time we went to that community, that company is almost fencing off that only source of water for that particular community. The access road to that place is, in fact, the place is not accessible. So, and you know, the insecurity around that area too. And these are people who are original inhabitants. I also talk about one popular hill that we may all know around the Apo Legislative Quarters. There's a big hill there that is called the Apo Hills. On that hill is buried 16 chiefs, past chiefs of the Gariki people. And the person that is reigning now is the 18th chief. The 17th chief, as they have not given them access to that hill to bury the 17th chief. And you know how these historical things are daring to us. When you talk about our culture, you talk about our history, people in some homes, in some places, if you want to identify with a place, you need to be able to know your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, up to 4 generations. Now, if you take away this culture from the people, what it means is that you are eroding them, you're eroding their nature, you're taking away what it is that they have a right to bring up their children with. So these are some of the issues that they are faced with. Now, before now, the indigenous of the FCT, when they are filling forms, if you look back, it's not quite long that we started having FCT on our forms when you are filling those forms. So the indigenous of the FCT didn't have a place to tick as FCT. They would either go to tick Niger, Nasarawa, and all those. This place, the federal government has agreed that this place should be a congregating place for every tribe and tongue for Nigerians, but without recognizing the original inhabitants of the city. For instance, Lagos was one time our capital, and then if you are going into Lagos, there's a significant cultural piece. You see the Ayo, the 3 masquerade in the entrance of the of Lagos. If you are coming into FCT, there's nothing that shows you that there's a symbolism of the original inhabitants, of the people that are here. So if we have those kind of things, the people will have a sense of belonging. They will not be treated as if they are strangers who have come to settle. Rather, they are the people who we are unsettling from where they belong to. So these are some of the issues that we have been putting on the table.
A bill was sponsored in their favor in the 9th Assembly and failed to stay through. What do you think the 10th National Assembly should do for them?
The 10th National Assembly should actually look at that again, now that the President has given an olive branch by appointing an FCT indigene as a minister. The 10th National Assembly, and that's where when we talk about the issue, the land space of the FCT is more than about 2 or 3 states put together, even the population, because of the people here. Now, at the National Assembly, the Senate, you have 1 representative, but every other state in Nigeria has 3 representatives. Then at the House of Reps, some states have up to 3, 4, 5 representatives in the House of Reps, but the FCT have only 2 representatives are there. So even when you bring a bill to the National Assembly, you can imagine you are bringing a bill concerning the FCT and there's just 1 senator. The space of influence is limited because it is 1 person, except you are able to put the issues on the table. And you know, one other thing that just happened a few days ago, the Senate came up with the list of committee chairs. And the committee on FCT was not even given to the FCT senator to chair. So how do you set up a committee of the FCT and you have not put the FCT representative to chair who understands the topography, the issues of the people, so that when you are discussing that issue, the person is able to tell you that I have information, I have facts to say this is what is happening and this is what is going on. So these are some of the things that we need on a day like this that we need to talk about, we need to bring to the fore and get people to understand that we have done this.
Even consulting with Nigerians, what does justice look like? How should we lead with justice? Who are some of the people in the city where we work that we need to remember and we need to care about their sociocultural and economic and political context? And you'd all recall that we have all survived COVID, due to the grace of the Almighty, but also by supporting each other. And one of the lessons of the COVID era was that we needed each other to really survive and to be strong. And some people struggled even more than others. And some people who were already left behind due to poverty or lack of voice in policy were left even further behind. And so the COVID-19 era taught us that lesson of paying more attention to the city where we work and trying to understand those who might have been left behind. And it became even much more apparent to us that if we were to answer that question, what is justice, we need to understand how every person, regardless of their geography or their ethnicity or their gender or their ability or disability, access opportunities and outcomes that will lead to a better life for them. Therefore, it becomes natural for us to support the original inhabitants of the Federal Capital Territory, who, as you know, have demonstrated their citizenship and patriotism by ceding what was their land to create this residency experience called the Nigerian capital city. Where are they now? How are their needs met? How happy are they? How have their aspirations been met? How are their children safe? What kind of environment do they live in? This has been the concern of the MacArthur Foundation, and we're very happy and privileged to have collaborated with one of our long-standing grantee partners, the Center for Human Rights and Civic Education, or CRISED, to be that organization that finds those voices, that supports them, that asks the question, what can we do with you? Not what does MacArthur Foundation want, but what do you want and how can we support you? And this day, August 9, which is a day to celebrate indigenous population all over the world by the UN, is a very special day in the FCT because here we are having a cultural rally. On the surface, you might think it's just a rally of people coming and showcasing their culture. Yes, it is, and that is important. But the most important symbolism of this moment is to show presence. To say we are here, we are human, we have ceded our land to you, but we continue to matter because we are Nigerians. And the MacArthur Foundation wants to amplify that aspiration and voice. And as you recall, there was a lot of excitement when recently President Tinubu nominated the former chair of AMAC. I always think of him as chair of AMAC because he was chair of AMAC when he was a friend of mine, Honorable Gisalo Zephania, to be a minister nominee. This has been one of the aspirations and the cries of the original inhabitants. Since A.B. Mamman, who was a general, was appointed a minister years ago, we've never had a civilian administration appoint an original inhabitant into the ministerial cadre. And as you know, by the federal character law, each state is supposed to have a minister designate representing them. So having someone from the FCT shows that there is an awareness of some of the work and some of the convening and some of the organizing that has been happening. And we would like to thank our original inhabitant colleagues and CRISED and members of the board that are working with CRISED to make sure that these rights are protected, for their courage, for their consistency, for their commitment and the collaboration that has brought us here today. And we pray for greater heights in the cause of unity and human rights and justice for everyone. I thank you on behalf of Dr. Kwale Ahmed Shatima, the Africa Director of the MacArthur Foundation.